Hello there, friends. It's Jimmy Maverick. Welcome to another edition of the Fantasy Maverick podcast. Today, we are talking all about quarterbacks and quarterback drafting strategies for the upcoming season. I'm also going to give you three of my favorites, so stay tuned for that. Here we go.
Listen up. It's time for the Fantasy Maverick podcast, starring the guy who's going to help you win that fantasy championship, Jimmy Maverick.
Hello there, friends. It's Jimmy Maverick. Welcome to another edition of the Fantasy Maverick podcast, coming at you from Santa Fe, New Mexico. And today we are going to talk about quarterback strategy for fantasy football for 2020. And I'd just like to start by saying that quarterbacks, they had kind of a down year last year. And I think this is directly related to the fact that so many elite wide receivers busted last season. I was looking at the 2018 season, and there was 8 quarterbacks who scored more than 30 touchdowns, or 30 or more touchdowns, I guess is the right way to say that. But last year there was only 4. So expect the whole grouping, the whole position to do much better this year. I mean, there's a nice infusion of that rookie wide receiver talent. Plus, I expect a nice strong bounce back from the elite receivers in this league. I think it'll be much better overall for points scored, for yards, for touchdowns, and all that. Now, as far as fantasy goes, one of the nice things about the quarterback position is that I estimate that there's somewhere around 15 or 16 startable QB1s in this league. So with most fantasy leagues, you only have a single quarterback slot. So there's more quarterbacks available than there are slots to play them. And that means that you don't need to spend an early draft pick on a quarterback. In fact, the quarterback position is so deep, it's almost streamable. The defense and the kickers, totally a streamable position. I'd say quarterback is almost there. I do not stream quarterbacks, though. It's just too risky for me. But again, because the position is so deep, you don't need to spend that early draft pick to get yourself an elite quarterback. It doesn't make that much of a difference, and we'll talk about why in a minute. So, my general rule is that in larger leagues, in 12-team and larger leagues, I like to be one of the last people in my league to draft a quarterback. So I'll let everyone else take their pick of whoever they want, and then I'll come in and I'll take a guy I like late. And that's because I'm going to get value out of that player. Spend those early draft picks on wide receivers and running backs and get yourself a tight end too. But again, here's why it's not worth that much. Okay, here let me just go over it. So when it comes to the quarterback position, there's like 3 guys. There's 3 that have elite point potential, right? We know who these guys are. It's Lamar Jackson, it's Patrick Mahomes, and it's Deshaun Watson, right? Those are the top 3 guys in the position. The top 3 point getters, they're all fantastic quarterbacks. And right now, all of them are projected to score somewhere around 320 to 340 fantasy points this year. Now, after you get past those top 3, you hit what I call the plateau. And the next dozen quarterbacks will earn anywhere from about 270 to 310 points, fantasy points. So basically the difference between the best quarterback in this section and the worst quarterback is only about 2.5 points per week. It's just not a significant amount of difference to be worth spending that early pick to get the number 4 or number 5 guy versus just getting the number 11 or number 12 guy. Really, seriously, that's the difference. And when we look at positions like the kicker position, that's exactly what the kicker position is like, man. The best kicker and the number 1 kicker and the number 12 kicker, the difference is about 2.5 fantasy points per week. So it has almost no impact on your fantasy performance to go in early on one of these mid-tier quarterbacks. Just wait. That's all you need to do. It's super easy. Now, the reason for this is just because of the way quarterbacks score points. Now, if I told you that quarterback A was going to get 500 more passing yards and 5 more touchdowns than quarterback B, you'd probably be like, oh, that's very good. I will definitely take quarterback A. But when you translate that into actual fantasy points based on the way quarterbacks score points in standard leagues, that's only about 40 fantasy points. And again, 40 fantasy points is 2.5 points per week. Now you compare that to a running back, and if a running back gets 500 additional yards and 5 additional touchdowns, that's 80 additional fantasy points. Okay, so it's like the impact is twice as much on the non-quarterback position. So even if a quarterback does much better than a secondary quarterback, the fantasy impact is minimal, all right? And that's what you need to know about that. Now, of course, the big caveat to this is that in these leagues, rushing quarterbacks with rushing touchdowns are exceedingly valuable because those points come in at twice the rate as a passing quarterback. So that's the reason why Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson and those guys are so darn valuable in fantasy leagues, and it gives them a much safer floor than the pocket passer quarterbacks, right? So how do you pick the right quarterback? Well, does it make sense to get one of the elite guys? So, I've already talked about this. When you talk about those elite guys, the top 3, they're usually going somewhere between the 2nd and 4th round of the draft. Now, actually, it's interesting because Deshaun Watson, once he lost Hopkins, he's plunged in the rankings, and he is now currently the 6th quarterback off the board, which makes him think that I might consider taking him because he's available so much later than he normally is. And yes, he does lose Hopkins, but he still has good receivers. He's got David Johnson. He's got Duke Johnson. So he's got some good pass catching. He's got some good pass catching running backs. I'm thinking that people are overestimating the impact that Hopkins has on his performance, and he's being discounted way too much. So I might consider taking Deshaun, especially if he falls even from that 6th position, if he falls a little bit more. But frankly, again, you just don't need to. It's just not going to be worth that much to spend that early pick. We also have a situation where because of what's happened over the past few years, okay? In 2018, Patrick Mahomes was the 14th quarterback taken off the board. And, of course, that's the season he got the 5,000 yards and 50 touchdowns, right? So he was the number 1 quarterback, huge impact. It was great. Last year, Lamar Jackson was the 8th quarterback off the board. And he came out this year and he was the number 1 quarterback, the number 1 rushing quarterback by a long margin over anyone else, and was fantastic. So what's happening this year? Well, this year, the speculation is that this year it's going to be Kyler Murray. And I can see why, man. Kyler did really good in his rookie year. He really has a great offense around him, a lot of great offensive players. I definitely want a piece of the Arizona Cardinals for this fantasy season. But I got to say, man, Kyler Murray is the number 4 quarterback coming off the board. And what that means is that even if he has a great season, fantasy-wise, he's just not going to be worth the pick. I mean, you got to take him so early in the draft. And you're bypassing a key wide receivers and running backs in order to get him. That, certainly he could come out this year and just blow up the league, just like Mahomes did, just like Lamar Jackson did, and he'd be the number 1 quarterback. But still, you're not getting that much value out of him. The reason why Patrick Mahomes and Lamar Jackson were so fantastic is that they cost almost no draft capital to get, and so they massively exceeded their projections. In this case, he's already projected as the 4th most valuable quarterback. So if he ends up as the 1st, that's not as big a deal as Patrick Mahomes, who was the 14th best quarterback drafted and was the number 1. So the gap, there's not as much of a gap there. There's virtually no value here. And even if he ends up with a season with like 4,500 yards and 35 touchdowns, you're going to be disappointed. Because he's not going to be the impact player that you were hoping for by taking him that early in the draft. So I would just stay away from Kyler Murray. I just think he's a dead end for fantasy this year, even if he has a great season. So I want to talk to you about how I get my quarterback, how I draft my quarterback. And really the most important thing to do is you got to pick which one you want before the draft even begins, because by doing that, you're going to know when to take him. And that's the most important thing. And if you really like a quarterback, you really got to go after him. Like Lamar Jackson last year, I was very high on him, but I didn't go aggressively after him. I only drafted him in one league. In another league, I traded for him after week 1. But I really should have gone after him a lot stronger in my other leagues, and I just didn't do that. So when you find a quarterback that you really like, really go after and try to get him in as many leagues as you can. And I'm going to talk to you about some of my favorites for the upcoming season. But when you look at the list of quarterbacks, okay, now the list right now, I'm just going to give you the order. So right now the order is Lamar Jackson's going to come off first, then Patrick Mahomes, Dak Prescott, Kyler Murray, then Russell Wilson and Deshaun Watson. See, this is why Kyler Murray's crazy, that he's going before those two guys. I just don't get it. But then you got Josh Allen, Drew Brees, Matt Ryan, Tom Brady, Aaron Rodgers, and Carson Wentz. All right, so that's the order right now for the QB1s. And one of the things I've noticed in fantasy football, and I don't know why this is the case, but this list is very, very sticky. These players will come off in this order like 95% of the time. So when your quarterback is going to be taken. You really don't have to worry about him getting sniped before another quarterback, right? If you want Aaron Rodgers, you seriously do not need to be worried about someone taking Aaron Rodgers until, Drew Brees or Matt Ryan comes off the board. That's just the way it is. And if you go and try some mock drafts, you're going to see that this is the case. It's the same order every time. And I think it's just because of the nature of the position, because of the way that, maybe one or two quarterbacks comes off every round, that this is the case. And it's very interesting to me that's the way it happens. But that is. So you can take advantage of this. And what I do, my strategy is that I look at the quarterback I want. So let's say I want Matt Ryan. Okay, now he's currently going as he's the 9th quarterback coming off the board, and he's going at around ADP number 83. So the secret is what you do is you count back 3 quarterbacks from the one that you want. So in this case, from Matt Ryan, we're going to count back 3. We're going to go back Drew Brees, Josh Allen, Deshaun Watson, who's the QB6 coming off the board. So my trigger for taking Matt Ryan is going to be when Deshaun Watson gets selected, I will take Matt Ryan with my next pick. All right? That way I can be sure that I will get him. This works like 98% of the time. To getting your quarterback is that's all you have to do. And when I'm in a draft, one of the things I do is I always have a little worksheet next to me, and I like to track how many quarterbacks and how many tight ends have come off the board, as well as what positions the player who's picking before me and the player who's picking after me have selected. Those are the things I keep track of when I'm in a live draft. So I'm just marking off. As quarterbacks come off the board, I'm just tally marking it. And as soon as number 6 comes off, boom, I'm going to take my target, Matt Ryan. And I swear this works in just about every league. The only time it doesn't work is if there's a situation where, and I've seen this in drafts, where the elite guys come off at about when you normally would expect them to. But then there's like this gap, and it lasts way longer than anybody thinks it will, where no quarterbacks are taken. And so, the top 3 come off like in the first 4 rounds, like you'd expect. Maybe one more comes off, but then nobody else is coming off. And you're like in the 8th or 9th or 10th round, and basically all the quarterbacks are still sitting there. And then what happens is someone takes a quarterback, and then boom, it's like it's a rush, right? That's the only time that this happens. So what I do to counter that is I always have a secondary and a third choice behind my primary choice. So in this case, I'm going to talk about this in a little bit, but Daniel Jones is another quarterback who I very much like for the upcoming season. And Daniel Jones is like he's like the 15th quarterback coming off the board. And so I would just count back 3 from him. And so in that case, 3 from him is Carson Wentz. So if I somehow miss Matt Ryan, if someone snipes him or whatever, my next target would be then to wait for Carson Wentz to come off the board and then take Daniel Jones. So that's, like I said, it works 98% of the time. It's super easy to do, but definitely target your quarterback before the draft even starts. Know who you're going after before the draft even starts, and you'll get him every time. You'll get him every time using that strategy. It's almost virtually foolproof. So which quarterbacks am I most interested in? Well, I've already talked about a couple of them. But I'm going to talk about, first of all, my dark horse Hail Mary quarterback, who I think has immense upside for the upcoming season, but also he's risky because he's unproven. But that would be Drew Lock in Denver. I mean, the offensive weapons that John Elway has surrounded Drew Lock with are outstanding. I mean, there's no other way to put it. I mean, you got Cortland Sutton and Jerry Jeudy, and as the primary wide receivers. You got Melvin Gordon and Phillip Lindsay as the running backs. You got Noah Fant as the tight end. This is an amazingly talented group of players to surround this quarterback with. And so the thing is he going to be more Patrick Mahomes or is he going to be more Baker Mayfield? That's like where I'm at right now. Is he towards the Patrick Mahomes side or is he towards the Baker Mayfield side? I don't know. But like I said, I think he's a fantastic choice. So cheap. Quarterback 22. He's coming off at pick 152 in the draft. Now, do I have the guts to wait until the 13th or 14th round to take my quarterback? I don't think I do. I don't think I can do it. I'm just not there yet as far as this quarterback goes. But if you're in a deeper league, a league that has more than 6 draft slots, that's where I would take a second quarterback. And I love the idea of taking him as a QB2. I love that. I would absolutely do that 100% of the time. I'm just not sure I'm there to take him as my QB1. But he certainly has the potential for immense upside. So I like that. But my other 2 favorites are guys I talked about, right? I love Daniel Jones of the Giants. And the reason that I really, really like him is in his rookie year, he had 3 games where he threw for 4 or more touchdowns. That's amazing. I mean, as a rookie, you don't see that. He ended up with a pretty good touchdown interception ratio. It was 24 touchdowns to 12 interceptions. Of course, the bad part was the fumbles, of which he also had 12 fumbles. But that flows to what I usually say about quarterbacks is they get the same number of touchdowns as they do turnovers. So, I am guessing that they will be working on the fumbling issue for him. He's certainly surrounded by tremendous talent. I mean, I love Saquon. I love Evan Engram as the tight end. Wide receiver is a great group. Sterling Shepard, Golden Tate, Darius Slayton. There's some real great talent here. It's not a very good defense. So that this is going to be shootout potential. That's what you want, man. Shootout potential for fantasy football is awesome. And so I definitely want some pieces of this offense, but I got to tell you, man, I would be totally comfortable taking Daniel Jones as my QB1. He is currently the QB 15, as I said, coming off at about pick 118. So we're talking 10th round. Man, you spend your first 9 picks on the wide receivers and running backs, get a tight end in there as well. And then with your 10th pick, you take Daniel Jones. That's great. You're in great shape. I really, really like that. So he's another one that I really think is going to be fantastic for this year. And then if we're going to go QB1s, which one do I like the best? It's Matt Ryan. I really think Matt Ryan is going to be outstanding this season. He's currently the 9th quarterback being taken at a pick number 83. He's, again, a player that's surrounded by immense talent. Julio Jones, Calvin Ridley. Calvin Ridley is one of my favorite wide receivers to take for this year. You got Todd Gurley in the backfield. You got Hayden Hurst, who's a dark horse tight end who I really, really like. I talked about him like a week ago in my late round Flyers episode, so you can check that out. But the real reason why I like Matt Ryan the most is because this is a guy who, if he is in the second year with an offensive coordinator, he does fantastic. If you look at his past 4 seasons, we'll go past 5 seasons. It was in 2016 and 2018 that he had basically 5,000 passing yards and 35 touchdowns. And those were both seasons where he was in his second year with the offensive coordinator. It was Kyle Shanahan in 2016. I forget who it was in 2018. But again, that's when it's like he just gets enough time to get and understand the offensive system. So last year, he did reasonably well under the first year offensive coordinator. But now I think, again, he can have another one of those years, a 5,000 year, 35 touchdown season. He certainly has the weapons available. I think he can totally do it. So if I'm just going to take a QB1, in the first 12, I think Matt Ryan is my choice by far. I really like him. I like the offense, and he's a proven commodity. I think he'll do very well this year. So there you go. So that's my quarterback strategy for the upcoming season. So thank you very much for watching. Please like and subscribe if you haven't done so already. Leave a comment. Let me know who are your favorite quarterbacks for the upcoming season and what you think about these guys especially, man, because like I said, I'm big on all 3. I think they're all going to be outstanding. They're all going to outperform their draft position. So that means they've got value. So that's what I want to see. And again, thank you very much for watching. So I am continuing to work on my app. It's there. I mean, it's there. It's in beta. You can use it, but there's just a few more things that are coming into it. Once that's all done and set up, which should be, actually relatively. We are virtually done with my initial updates. We're going to do some mock drafts and everything like that. We'll take a look at that. So that will be coming up very soon. So thank you very much. If you haven't done so already, go to my website too, fantasyfootballmaverick.com. You can sign up and get free access to the app to try it out for yourself on mock drafts. You can utilize it in standard points drafts and see what you think. It's, like I said, it's an excellent tool. It's my passion project. And before I created this app, I had not won a single fantasy football championship. But since I created this app, I've won 7 money leagues, won money. So that's it makes a huge difference in how you draft on draft day. And that's what you do. You use it in a live draft situation. That's what it's for. So again, thank you very much for watching. I appreciate it. Have yourself a great weekend, a great Memorial Day weekend, and I will talk to you next time. Have a good one, everybody.